I saw you flicker.
On Twitch, Stream Elements says, Play Compilers now live. Streaming software and game development, iDLE, iDLE business minigame, Unity. Welcome to the Play Compile live stream.
Alright. Still struggling. Yeah, I still didn't eat anything yesterday, but I had some fruit juice and some milk. I'll tell you what though, it was good because I did avoid giving me the digestion issues that I was having. But like now I'm on day 3 with no food. Yeah.
11 I'm coming to do and then I can tomorrow.
Alright.
Do you want this over and up before then?
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to do that, Mum. I've got no energy.
Eh?
I've got no energy. I'll pick some bits up.
I'll do it for you if you want.
Oh, let me talk to you about it later. Yeah, that's exactly what I want. Right. So we need to create a control. Most of this is now working, but we need to create a control for the manual add a worker section. So at the moment, the only way you can assign a worker is by clicking auto, and our auto will find the worker with the longest battery, but you may want to pick a specific robot, so I need to offer an interface to allow that. So let's call this, why is that on rows? Oh, it's not on rows. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so let's call it manual worker, I guess. Let's call it man worker. And then, so what we're going to want is a grid layout view. Grid layout group. And we're going to want rows. So a fixed column count of 1. We want a little bit of a gap in there as well. So then I'm just going to put a, I don't know, just make it red for now. Ooh, that's too much. Let's try 1, 1, 1. Well, so what I'm doing now is just sizing the control. Okay, 1 must be too much. 0.5. What? It doesn't accept decimals. Seriously? Oh wow, it doesn't accept decimals. Seriously? Oh, shit. Okay, for some reason it's got a gap even at 0, though I'm not sure why. Does it grow from the middle? It shouldn't do. Oh my god, I'm actually going to kill somebody. Yeah, it does grow from the middle. Interesting. It's probably, it'll have settings. Okay, so what we want to do is just size how big we want each row to be. Yeah, I won't bother with that. I just realized I made a mistake. I made a mistake. I should be able to convert this into a scroll view though. I always forget there's always like a million elements. Okay, let me put a UI scroll view so we can analyze what it consists of. It's a scroll bar and an image. So if I add the scroll rect. No, scroll bar. Oh, because I bloody picked scroll bar, didn't I? Okay, if I pick scroll view like I meant, there we go. We should have a scroll rect, which we do, on the parent. So let's go add that. We only want to scroll vertically. And we have to set the content. So we need So this would be the manual parent scroll rect controller. So this would be the content. So that actually doesn't want to be on there. That wants to be on there, and then that on there, and then the grid view on there. I gotta start again. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Let's just take that out. I only want that as a reference. Okay. Why is it... Okay, so we also have a... Oh shit, we also need a viewport, don't we? We need a viewport first. Oh god, I fucking hate this. Okay, what does a viewport consist of? An image and a mask. Okay, so we want a new UI. You can't add a viewport on its own. Okay, fine, we'll create a game object and we'll add a viewport to the game object. How's that? You can't add a viewport to a game object. Are you fucking serious? Because a viewport isn't a thing, it's an image and a mask. Okay. So it's an image and a mask. God, I hate these things. Unity made this so convoluted. Okay. Right, now what the fuck do we do? So this is the viewport. This has the mask on it. So this is the viewport. This is the content. And then we give content the content. Right. And does viewport just know what to do by itself? Probably not. Or maybe it does, because viewport, okay, yeah, because viewport is basically using its rect transform, right, which is the size of the UI element, to limit the view. You see how that cuts it off? So if we wanted to, we could make it smaller, but we don't want to do that. So it creates like a window into the thing, right? Like this is the window into the thing. Okay, and then our content is what wants the grid layout. So we need a little bit of a spacing on there. Let's say 1 for now. So each of our rows would look like that. Now we place content in there, but it wants to jump down now. So why is content? What's content's rect transform? What I'm confused about is why is content starting all the way down here and not at the top? That's what I'm confused about. Okay, we would want a content size fitter or a vertical layout group. So let's do a content size fitter, preferred size. Right, now it's gone up there. Okay, so let me just test that by running it and we'll see what we're dealing with. If it ever runs. Yeah, we need like a top and a bottom border on that. So if we do like top and bottom of 1, that shouldn't have come up because the status isn't active. Why did they come up? Those tasks are completed, so those animated things shouldn't be happening. So we've got a bug to fix. Okay. Yeah, I think that looks good for our list of worker rows. So we want 1 and 1 in top and bottom. Why is the animation of active effect showing on resume when it's not? Probably because when we first instantiate the task, it is still running because it was running when we logged out. Then we apply offline progress and it gets changed from active to complete. So we have two options. We can either get the control to re-query the task status, I think it's easier just to, maybe we should just put a UI update. Let's just make an update. I mean, if we're going to do that, we might as well put it on the UI itself then. You know what, I think I'm going to do that. But I have no real way of querying the slots. I mean, I do, but I don't. I do, but I don't. Wait, do I? I do though, because each slot has a public assigned worker and a public assigned task, so I can put it on the slot on the UI. Okay, I'm going to put it on the UI. Did I set the 1.1? I did set the 1.1. Okay, we set the 1.1, so that's good. Get rid of, where is it? I have an active effect, which I'm now going to remove because it's not working very well on here. An active effect. And then we'll go over to the active effect. So each active effect, we have one active effect script. The active effect script sits on task panels. Yes, it does. Okay, so now let's make it so that the active effect script knows about all 4 active effects. So we want system collections generic, so that what am I doing? So I can have a public list of all task slot UI, all task slot UI. So we'll assign the 4 task slots, so we'll call these slots. We'll assign the 4 task slots on the UI controller on the parent. And then what we can do is in update, because we already have an update, we don't need those comments. We can say for each all task slot UI slot in slots, if slot dot assign task is not null, so we don't get a null reference exception, then if slot assigned task dot status is status, or is it mode? It's not mode. Active. Okay, so if there is an active task that is happening, then we want to enable the component for that slot. So we also need a public list of raw image of, let's just call them effects. Okay. But we need the index from slot. So if it's active, we want to say effects at position slots dot index of slot dot enabled equals true, else false. Okay, that should be fine. That should work better. So this thing will check each and every slot when we set it up in a second. Each and every slot, it's going to look at the slot task UI controller, and it's going to ascertain whether there's a running task or not. If there's a running task, it will show the running task animation, else it will not show the running task animation. So we want the same slots in each of these. So we want slot A in that one, and the slot effect, which is image active A, B, C, D, B, C, and D. So if we play it now, it should pick up that those tasks are completed and that animation shouldn't play. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Okay, and our worker row is looking good. Yeah, as long as it's scrolled to the top, which it isn't. I'm actually going to give it a little bit more of a border for safety. So let's do... Where's the grid view? I thought the grid view was on content. It is. Okay, there we go. 2-2. 2-2. Okay. So for all intents and purposes, this is going to be one of our worker rows. Okay, so now we can decide what do we want on a worker row. So the first thing we want on a worker row is an icon. So let's get another raw image component on there. And we'll place the worker's icon at the edge. So that one would be image icon. This is worker row. Well, it's manual. What do we call the thing? Manual worker row. Manual worker row. Okay, then we've got consistent naming. Okay, so there's our image icon. Nice. We're going to want the worker's name. So this is probably going to be black or something. Or something like, something pretty. Like that. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. And then we want a text mesh for the name. So let's say this one is chromatic Chloe. It would look like that. Okay, but that's way too big. Also, I'm going to use grids so that I can create columns and rows. That's probably still too big. It's also not the font that I want. I want Roboto. There we go. So we can have the bot's name at the top. And then we want to decide what sorts of things do we want to display. So we're going to want to know how much battery is left on the bot, right? For example, things like, you know, remaining battery time. Let's take a look. I need to actually see what. So name is derived from worker type. Task is for assignment. Slot is for assignment. Next battery update is for update logic. Battery level. Okay, so I think the best thing to do is to just make a note of what we actually want to display. So we want the battery level, which is like a fixed int. We've got worker state. Yeah, we should probably show state, because if we're seeing robots, we could see the robots that are currently on other tasks, I guess. Now this is a design decision. Do we want to show? We should maybe only show available robots in this view. It's kind of tricky because there's a pro and a con to each. You see, if you only show available robots, then the plus side is the player isn't frustrated because all their bots are on other tasks. But then if the player's bots are all on other tasks, maybe it's better that the player can see that their other bots are on other tasks. You see what I'm saying? So like, one thing sounds like a quality of life approach, like let's only show who's available. But on the other hand, the more information you hide from the player, the less sort of decisions the player can make about that information that they receive, right? So if I'm a player and I wanted to put Chromatic Chloe on a discovery task and I forgot that she's, I don't know, farming nose goblins or whatever, then in this view here, if we show Chromatic Chloe as currently farming nose goblins, and then we do some sort of validity check where it's like you try to assign Chromatic Chloe and it says you can't, Chromatic Chloe is currently farming nose goblins, she can't do two things at once. That's probably the ideal situation, I think, because it's tempting to like chalk it up to quality of life and to say, okay, we don't want to show the player redundant information, right? We try to sort of make everything relevant that we show the player, but it is kind of relevant to see whether your workers are on other tasks, I think. So I think this window should show every single worker and what they're doing. And if you try to assign one that's busy on another task, well, we just do a validity check at that point and say, no, Chromatic Chloe is busy doing something else. She can't do this task. You need to go and boot her off that task if you want to do this. She can't do two things at once. Only was set a lot quicker than the way I just said it. Alright, because we don't have fucking 6K fucking screens. Right, yeah, so I think we want a worker state. So we want state, which is a string. And states are discovering, gathering, crafting, selling, idle, charging, complete. Yeah, we don't need to say exactly what task they're on. If you want to put Chloe on a discovery task and she's busy crafting, then it'll say Chloe crafting. And if you've got 6 Chloes and one says she's crafting and one says she's selling and one says she's whatever, then that should be enough information for the player to figure out, oh, okay, do I have a spare Chloe for this? Maybe not. Right, so those two definitely we need in there. So we want battery level, we want state. I think from battery level, if we go through type, we can get what that means in terms of like time. So the battery level would have like a fixed digit like 600, but that doesn't mean a whole lot to the player. But if we go through type, we can translate that into like 2 hours 15 minutes, for example. So I think we should show this. So this would be remaining life. And remaining life is actually, it comes from 2 different variables. It depends whether the bot is fully charged or not. So we want to show battery level, state, remaining life. Is that it? Yeah, I think that's all you really need to assign a worker to a task, right? You don't need any more information. Just, are they busy right now and do they have enough battery to do the task? And then we're going to need like a button, right? So let's put the button in first so we know how much room we've got to actually put the text. There it is. That's one big ass button. Who am I? What are you doing? Button. I think the text should be a sign. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'll put it up. Oh, give me a second. Oh, just a minute. Yeah, I said okay. No, yeah, that's fine. I'll put it on the screen. Alright. Oh, thanks for making me get up for nothing. Ow! Fucking ache everywhere. I need to take another one of these evil hell pills. It's just I'm worried about if it's going to destroy my guts or not. Well, we need to get it done. Oh shit, I already took one of these today. I'm trying to take a second beta blocker. I do not want a second beta blocker. Let me put that back in here. I need the allopurinol. I already took a beta blocker today. Beta blockers for migraine. I'm like an old fucking man. Beta blockers for migraine. We took that. What I need is the allopurinol with the colchicine. It's all COVID's fault. I was fine until COVID hit me, and then I get COVID and everything. It's like fucked my entire blood stream up. my my acid levels. All right, let's go. Ah. Oh god, I thought I was going to throw that up then. Jesus Christ. Alright, beautiful stream, beautiful stream. Okay, so living a dream. Why does it look like that?
Canthea says, at least you didn't lose your taste buds from COVID.
Oh, I totally did. At the time. They came back, but yeah, at the time, yeah, I couldn't taste shit. Yeah, the COVID itself wasn't too bad, actually, like, overall. It wasn't too bad. But I thought, especially now that I think that a lot of the aches and pains I was getting, I thought was COVID. I think it was just my gout getting a foothold because my immune system was low, which means the actual effects of COVID themselves were probably even... Maybe I should just do a tick. A sign's fine. A sign's fine. I think a sign's fine.
On YouTube, Tommy says, Hola.
Hola, Tommy. Hola, Tommy. How are you? Right, so I'm just going to shrink it down more like that. There we go. Shrink it some more. So that'll be our button for assigning a worker. I think that makes sense. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay. Maybe not that colour though, it's a bit boring. What colour do we want? Green. Green for go. Yeah, green for go. Okay. So now we know how much space we've got to work with for. So we could put a worker icon in there just so we can get a feel for what that's going to look like. So if I go to server farm, robots should be in here. There we go. So it look like that. So this one is txt name. And then what is it we said we needed to show? We want battery level and remaining battery life and state. So I think we put state on the left and battery over here. I think that makes the most sense. Oh, we could put next to the name there what she's doing and then put the battery stuff here. But we've got plenty of room actually, so I think it's fine either way. Yeah, we can make that name a bit bigger then. Gotta make sure it's big enough for my biggest name. That should be fine. Okay, so we're gonna copy this for now. Drag it down here. And make it smaller. So 20 should probably, maybe even different text. There we go, that's quite legible. Legible, legible. I think Nurse comes out today, doesn't she, in Toff? Well, I know the existing banner ends tonight. But I don't know whether it goes into maintenance and then she comes back after that or what, I don't know. All I know is the banner ends tonight. So she might be out tonight or it might be tomorrow. I have my 120 polls ready to go. So I can do the guarantee. Why is that not deleting? Fuck you, Submesh. Oh my god, why won't you delete? I don't know why it does that sometimes. I really don't know why it does that. Also, I want 2 columns here. So I want one there and one on the other side. Because one is going to display battery. So we'll right align this one. There we go. And the other one is going to display, put it in the middle. In the middle. In the middle. In the middle. Do 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 do. In the middle. In the middle. In the middle. Do 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 do. In the middle. Sorry, I don't know what came on me. I swear I'm going fucking crazy. It's fucking. It's not just my physical health, it's my mental health at this point. Right, so status, this is where we would basically say she is like whatever she's doing. She's gathering, she's idle, she's charging. So that could say like gathering, for example. I could put status gathering, yeah. So this one is txt status. And then this one wants to be txt battery. And here is where we will put battery 600, which is 1 hour 30 minutes or something. Think a space like that as well. Maybe that one wants to be italic. Yeah, I think that looks good. Let's see it up big. Too many brackets there. We could probably make it a little bit bigger. I'm finding it a little bit hard to read. But again, I'm blind, old and blind. But that's why it's good to be old and blind making games, because if you can read it, then all the young'uns will be able to read it, no problem. So like if you could be like your own guinea pig. See what I mean? Why does that old man make such good games? Oh, it's because he's fucking blind, deaf, and he can't play for shit. So when he passes his own stupidity test, everybody else is great. You know what I mean? So that you could see that as a strength rather than a weakness, really, couldn't you? Depending on how you look at it. Oh my god, I'm turning to Canthia. At least I'm blind and deaf, but I can judge. I can make games that everyone can enjoy. Because if I can enjoy them, ha! Everyone else will be fine. Okay, so we'll stretch that out a little bit, make it a bit more legible. I'm worried that might not fit in. Let's make it 21. Is it still legible? I know it's legible right now because we're zoomed right in, but what about when we're back at the... I mean, it should be running at like max. It should be running at full screen, so I think that'll be fine. I think. I am struggling to read that right now, though. Just a little bit. I think it's the italic. The italic's making it hard to read, you know. More than anything. Looks kind of boring, though. All the same. But if it's easy to read... Alright, let's leave it like that, I guess. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. This one is going to be button sign. Which makes that txt a sign. Can we get rid of these submeshes or not? No. I don't know why some text mesh pros create a submesh and other ones don't. I do not understand what's going on there. I have no idea. Alright, I think that's fine. I think that should be fine. Is that the tune I was just humming? I think it is. Wasn't that Indiana Jones? Oh no, it's the football thing. But that's how Indiana Jones starts. Indiana Jones starts as like but the football one is so it's the same start, interestingly enough. Plagiaristic bastards. Right. They all think they're Indiana Jones out there, those football hooligans. I know, I'm onto them. I'm onto them. Alright, we are looking good. So this becomes a prefab. So we want to go over to our prefabs. Man worker raw. He's a man worker. He's a man worker. Alright, looking good, looking good. So what we do now is I think we put logic on the control itself and make it, yeah, because we need like a bunch of these, right? So this worker permit here is going to have its manual select. This one here needs a manual select. This one here, and for every other task type there are going to be 4. So there'll be a grand total of like 32 manual select controls. So it makes sense to put the logic on the thing itself, I think. So let's get rid of this, which was just a reference. We don't need it anymore. I don't need it. Okay, and on man work on content on man worker, let's put it on man worker. We need a new script for server farm. So let's do that, and we're gonna call it I guess man worker UI. Yeah, that'll work. Man worker UI. So manual worker UI is the name, and selecting workers is the game. Haha. Shaken, not stirred. Ow, my arm's still ache. At least, I swear to God, this should be out of my system by now. I felt it's always the same. That I wake up very achy, but then by the night time, I feel pretty much like I'm fine. So every night, as I'm going to bed, I always think, oh, I can probably stop taking those pills soon because I'm like, I'm okay now. And then I wake up the next day. I suppose your blood circulation changes though, right? Because it's blood related. So I think if you're seizing up all night and you're not moving and your blood's not pumping very much, maybe it gets a grip on me again. So that's why I'm like aching now. But then once you've been up for a while and the blood gets pumping, this is my theory. Once you're up and your blood gets pumping around your system a bit more, then it sort of gets on the move and feels a bit better. That's my theory on it. Ow! I'm fucking achy there though. Really am like an old man. Ugh. Okay. Also, I don't want that to be that colour. That's quite nice. Let's go with that. Like a dark black currant. Like a dark misty black currant. I hereby christen this colour dark misty black currant. All rights reserved. Okay, so viewport. I didn't select the viewport. Wait, was this work? I thought this was working anywhere. I don't want scroll bars. Let me just make sure that's working, because the viewport wasn't selected, but I think it was working. But let me just... Oh, I can't... I'm an idiot. I can't test it with one thing in. Well, you kind of can, because you can see where it goes to, like, by doing that. But really, you need, like, multiples. Alright, looking good. Okay, so we need to start defining things. So the first thing we're going to need is a public game object of the raw prefab. So for each worker we will instantiate one of these. We're also going to need access to the system controller, as always. So on a void, I'll just assign it on enable because we're going to rebuild the list on every single on enable. So what we'll do is on enable, we will assign the system controller and we will run a new void called fetch workers. Let me try that again. Goddamn caps lock, motherfucker. Alright, fetch workers and run it. Fetch workers. Alright. Ah! Okay. There. Right. Okay. Fetch workers, fetch workers, fetch workers. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to say for each alliance worker in system alliance progress workers, and we need to give them a name. We'll just call them workers. For each worker in system alliance progress workers, we want to instantiate the raw prefab, and we need to put it on content. So we need a content transform as well. Well, let's just do a private transform, and we'll call it raw root. I like to call these things roots, like root transforms. I have my own way of doing things, don't worry. So raw root equals transform find. So we're running from here, so we want to go through viewport to content. So we want viewport to content. Not one. I accidentally hit that. Fat ass fingers. Fat finger, fat finger. You know how to pick your nose. I got fat fingers, fat fingers. I don't put them up bums. Okay, instantiate raw prefab, and we want to instantiate that on the raw root. Row, row, row your root gently in the chord. Syntax errors, null references. Life is a fucking bastard. Alright, fetch workers. For each alliance worker, we instantiate a raw prefab at root raw. Alright, then what do we want to do? Well, I'll tell you what we want to do. We first need a reference to that, so we need to actually say game object, new, let's just say, let's just call it a raw object. That's what it is. That's what it is. That's what it is. And then we can say raw object yeah, let's call it the worker name, the object name. It's already being assigned to the transform through instantiation, so that's fine. We want to get access to some things now. So what we're going to do is expand this out so we can see what we called everything, and then we can see what we're accessing. So we want to access image icon. So we want image raw image icon equals raw objects transform find image icon get components raw image, and then on the raw image we want to set that texture to our worker.
Since ads are about to run on Twitch.
Oh my
how about
god,
I
your
tell you a
ads!
joke?
Shut up! I don't want
Never
your
take
ads.
advice
I don't want
from
your
electrons.
jokes. I don't want you.
They are always
Bugger off.
negative.
Just like my feelings towards you. Now bugger off, you little scamp. Go on, get out of here. Alright. Okay, so worker texture, icon texture is worker type icon. Beautiful. So that should put the icon in the icon. Now we need the name. So we want txt. So it's actually a text mesh pro. We need tm pro using at the top. And it's a text mesh pro UGU UI UI text mesh UGU. We're going to call it txt name equals transform. Wait, no, we don't. Raw object. Where's raw object? Raw object transform find txt name. Checks out. Get components. Yep, it knows the rest. Okay, beautiful. And then we want txt name to get the worker name. Okay, so that's put the name in the worker. Now we need to go grab the worker status, so we can just actually make life easier. Since each of these is like a group of 2 lines, let's just space them out for now, just to make life a little bit easier. So this one is going to be txt status, and obviously this one is looking for txt status. See how consistency makes this so much easier. And now we can change that to status.text, and we can say status. I think it might be state to string. I'm worried about that one though, because I also don't know whether we should exclude the ones that are already in these slots. Well, it'll be interesting to see what they say. So right now I left 4 tasks to complete overnight, right? And they've now completed. So I'm not sure what their status will say. Will they be idle? Because if they're idle, it should, yeah, it might lie, and it might say that they're not, because if you think about it, idle means they're not doing anything, which is true, but they're still assigned to existing slots. We could exclude any that are currently assigned to a slot, but if you do that, then you're never going to see that one is gathering. I think it's useful to see that one is gathering on a specific slot. So maybe the conditional check that we need to identify is if a worker is in a slot and a worker is set to idle, don't list it here. This is complicated. See, I have an issue now, whereas if I just exclude any worker that's assigned to a slot, then we're never going to see the workers that are gathering, crafting, and doing various things, which I think is good for the player to see. On the other hand, if we include workers that are assigned in other slots, which I think we should, then it's gonna look like workers that have finished tasks that are still stuck on other slots. Like there's a main mechanic here, and I've got to decide how I want it to work. I suppose the first thing is to run this code and see what a worker state returns into when a task is completed. Because I know I added a new state, I think. Didn't I add a new state yesterday? Because there was a point when a worker had finished a task but they weren't available to do another task, so I think I added the state of completed. Now if I did add the state of completed like I think I did, which I'm trying to check now. Yeah, I did. Okay, well, this is this completed state actually solves both problems. All I can do is exclude a worker that is in a completed state because they are... Well, this is if I want it to work the way I think I do. Again, though, no, I still think I should show all robots. This is now just a design decision. It's like, do I want to show the workers from the other areas that are assigned to slots in this view? And like on the plus side, if I do, then the plus side is it's easier to keep track of where your workers are while you're trying to assign tasks, which I think is a good thing. On the downside, it just means I'm going to have to do a lot more validation checks before we can allow a robot to be assigned to a task. And then that then nests down into a design decision question of like, okay, if a player clicks Chloe, who's on the gathering task, and she finished, so technically she's available, but she's still stuck on that slot. Well, the reason the gameplay is designed around a player must log in and remove a worker from a task before that worker starts charging their battery. Because at one point the workers were auto-charging their batteries when the task's finished, but then I thought, wait a minute, that's not how Zenless Zone Zero does it. You have to log in and remove a worker from a task to get the battery charging again. And I think the reason they designed it that way is purely for like FOMO and purely to give the player a reason to log in, right? If you make it too automatic, then the player doesn't have to do anything. So that amount of friction kind of creates FOMO and gives the player an incentive to log in. And it requires like a player interaction, right? It requires some intervention from the player. So the next question would be, if a worker is assigned to a different slot but they're finished on a different task, are we really going to make them go all the way over to the other task to manually take the worker off the task, to then go back to the task that they wanted to do, to then assign them in the slot? Or should we just allow them to swap slots? I think the answer is B, right? Because even though the player needs to intervene to get the batteries charging again, well, that isn't this situation. This situation is a robot finished a task on one task, and now the player wants them to do a different task. So since that isn't at odds with the players must remove robots to charge them again, since that's a completely different thing, I think it's fine to do that. Like, I think that's the right way to go. That way a player can go into a discovery task and see which bots have finished tasks from other areas, and then just assign them, and then it will say, oh, Chloe has currently finished her gathering task. Do you want to basically transfer her over to this one and start this one? And then we'll allow that to be done with one click. I think that's the way to make it work, because it seems kind of obnoxious to just make the player go all the way to the other task, just to remove them from the task, just to go all the way back and then assign them to the task. They should be able to just do it in one click. It's just there's no reason not to offer that, I think, because it doesn't interfere with the players must intervene to charge robots, because number one, they're not charging robots by transferring tasks anyway, they're deciding to continue working. And number two, they are intervening, right? And that's what we want from the player. They logged in and they're intervening, and that's what we wanted in the first place. So we won. We already won. Why make the player suffer any more than they need to when we already won? As designers, we already won. We've already got them wrapped around our little designer fingers. We've got them like good little slaves logging in every day and doing our little tasks. Why be even any more evil than that? Like, that's enough evil, I think. We don't need to be more evil than that. Okay, so I think we're good. I think we need to go back to the control we were programming, which is where the fuck are we? Let me just double click it from here because I can't find it in that list. There we go. This is where we were. Yeah, so we show the status in status, then we've got TXT battery, and this is the last one, and then we've got to add a button clicker for button sign. We're going to need a lambda for that one. I fucking hate lambdas. I don't like lamb either. I'm not a big lover of lamb. I like chicken and beef. I like turkey as well, but mainly I'm a chicken and beef guy. Turkey's more a Christmas thing, you know. People say turkey can be dry, but I like turkey. But I'll admit it's not something you want to eat all the time. It's like a special thing for Christmas, but I do love turkey. Anyway, we're not talking about turkey, we're programming this. So let's get this. Let's get ready to show the battery. So TXT battery is go and find transform find TXT battery, and then TXT battery is going to work a little bit differently because we need a little bit more information for this one. So first of all, we want to show, we might be able to do it directly in this. We want to show worker battery level as a raw number. We want to preface that with battery, and we want to add a bracket, and then we want to close a bracket, and in between the brackets we want to display worker. Well, this is where it gets a bit hairy. This is why I said this one's a bit weird, right? So what we need to do is declare a string which will say remain bat life, and we'll just set that to nothing for now. The reason why is, so mine's a bit weird. If a robot is charging or working, then the remaining battery life can be grabbed from let me just set up a worker so I can show. Where is my player worker slot? Where, oh where could it be? I have so many fucking things in this game that I just cannot see. Okay, there's my worker slot, so let's just create a fake worker for now. Okay, there it is, time remaining. So time remaining doesn't always give you the time remaining on the battery. Because what this time remaining is for is it's to show you how much time is remaining for this state. But if the state is idle idle doesn't have a remaining state because we don't know when the player's going to take them off idle, right? We can't say this robot will be idle for 4 hours. Like, we can't predict the player's actions. The player's the one who takes them off idle. So I don't actually put anything in there when the robot is idle. And when we're assigning workers, this is the ideal, not idle, but ideal. Happens to be the ideal state for assigning workers. I'm waffling now, just ignore me. No, don't listen to me. Take every word I say very, very seriously. This is the truth. Alright, so now we need an if statement, right? Because we need to say if the worker state is idle. Then basically we get the remaining battery life. So we'll declare that up here. We get the remaining battery life from a completely different place than we do for any other state. So if the worker state is idle, then battery life, remain battery life, wants to be grabbed from worker type, lifetime, because lifetime is the full battery life of the unit. And also they only go into idle state if they are fully charged. If they're in any other state, then remain battery life can be grabbed from time remaining. There we go. So now our text battery will be correct regardless of what the robot's doing. Okay, perfect. What we also need to do is we need a lambda expression because we need to grab the button. So we want a button assign. Did I call it that, by the way? So let's get rid of that now. That was just for demo purposes. Yeah, it is called button assign. Button assign wants to equal worker object, raw object, transform, find, button assign, and then we want to get the component of button. Not in children. Don't you miss autocomplete me, you little scallywag. Okay, so that looks good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to quickly ask Jibbity, because I always struggle with lambda expressions. They're just weird. I still haven't gotten used to them. But with a lambda expression, what we can do is we can send each button, and I can construct its handler at least. So we could do a void click assign, and we want to receive the button. Do we want to receive the button back? Do we want to receive the button back? Also, we're not containing a list of these. Why doesn't it like that? It's just that's why. It's just complaining about this, I think. And then what we'll do is at the top of this we can say workers clear, and then as we add a worker we'll say workers add a worker. Do we really need a list though? I suppose we do, because I think what we need is a list of buttons. We don't need a list of workers. We need a list of buttons. So we'll say button assign, buttons, add button assign. There we go. Then we can accept the button back. So we can grab the index. But then we don't have a... Yeah, what the fuck are we going to do with an index? I suppose we need both then, don't we? Maybe we do need a list of workers. Like, maybe there are ways of doing it without. Because what you could do is you could take the index of the button and then you could use the index of the button to get the child index from the player root transform. However, could things happen in between when the UI was listing workers and when the player selects one? Probably not. But it feels like it could, which would then make the indexes misalign. So the safest way to do it is to have a list of workers and a list of buttons. And then you just match one with the other. Or you could maybe do a dictionary. You could do a dictionary of buttons and workers, I guess. You could do a dictionary, I guess. I don't like dictionaries though. So we'll go back to adding the worker as well. Okay, so the way this is going to work is we're not going to exclude any worker from the UI. We're going to show what every worker's doing, but we're going to need some like extremely aggressive validity checks in here. Alright, so I'm going to ask GPT to fill in the blanks, to give us the lambda, to register each and every new worker's button so that we can handle its clicks. And then we can test it, and then we can start to think about the validity checks for when we're trying to assign workers. Okay, so let's just feed this to GPT. Ass listeners? Who's listening to asses? I can only think of one noise that an ass makes, and it's not a nice one. Can you give me the lambda on click add listeners and on disable removal for the worker raw buttons? Alright, that should be fine. Let's go to T3. Right, let me just, yeah, I want to refresh it actually, because I don't think it's not T3's fault, but GPT-5 was an absolute fucking numbskull yesterday. Oh my god. Like really, I genuinely feel like that is the dumbest, yesterday was the dumbest I've ever seen GPT-5. It was like talking to a fucking... Wuthering Waves player. Right, ooh, that was a good one. I like that one. All right, let's see if it should be able to handle this. Yeah, it's this bit that confuses me. So we open the bracket and then immediately we open and close another bracket. I do not understand that at all. That makes no sense to me. What the fuck is this? I just don't. I'll never remember that for some reason. Then we say equals greater than. Like, what the fuck? And then click assign, which is my handler. We're also sending the worker, apparently. Captured worker. Button assign. Sure. So maybe I don't need the list of buttons then, if it can send me the worker. Maybe we don't need the list of buttons. Is that what it's telling me? And why declare a new all worker of captured worker and set it as worker? Can't we just cast worker directly? Or would that not work? It says you need to capture it as a... I don't understand that either. It's kind of weird. So this makes it sound like I don't really need the button then, do I? I don't really need the button for anything. So if we remove the button, then we no longer need the button list at all. That's way better. Ooh, wouldn't you know it? That's perfect. Okay, I like that. Alright, so now we know which worker was clicked. So we can put some validation checks in here. Okay. Let's see it. Can you see it? But also, yeah, we missed something. We're supposed to have this. Dum 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 dum. Oh, we did need the list of buttons so that we could remove the listeners for them. Fuck. Isn't there any other way to just go through all the buttons real quick? Bollocks! Okay. Whoa! What the fuck, Windows? I didn't ask for you. Mind your own business, I'm doing this. Buttons. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Feel it in the air. The wind is taking you everywhere. Yeah. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Buttons add. Button assign. There we go. We got it back. Bring it back. Sing it back. Will that still work? I think it will. We don't have to cast the button to the lambda, right? It seems kind of unnecessary. Alright, so we're going to let it run. And then we're going to open our manual worker. But we have to wait for it to load all of the data first. We'll see what we get. All the children of the world should be Null reference. Reference. That's because we don't have a raw prefab. No E, no E. No E, no E. What is the raw prefab? It was man worker raw, wasn't it? There it is. Found him. Alright, let's go. Also, we don't need this one anymore. Alright, let's go. Are you having my eyes out? Object not set to a reference. I'm a fool. What a fool I've been. What a fool I've been. You better spank my bum, because I've been such a fool. Alright, let's go. It'll work this time. It'll work this time. It'll work this time. It'll work this time. Didn't work. Oh, it's because I opened it before the... Shh. There we go. Okay, now we're looking better. Alright, so we have a total of 4 bots, correct. We have 2 backwards bobbies, a chromatic Chloe, and a slacker bot. A slacker bot! He's a slacker bot, isn't he? You can't say a slacker bot without sounding like a scouse, without sounding like he's from Liverpool. He's such a slacker bot! Oh, is that Birmingham? I always get those two mixed up. They sound kind of similar. Okay, so these guys are all iDLE. Which is true, but they're currently in these slots. So like this is a weird situation, right? This situation would be weird because we're saying add a robots in these slots that are already in these slots, but I suppose it wouldn't do any harm. So I have to cover all bases now. I have to think about every situation that a player could click that button in and what we do in each unique situation. So if I assign who was in this slot, let's process of elimination. Backwards Bobby and Backwards Bobby are in this one, and Chromatic Chloe is in this one. So this must have been Slackerbot. So if we just click Slackerbot, for example, well, it won't work right now because we haven't programmed it to do anything. But if we were to click Slackerbot, then there'd be no change, right? So that would be fine. However, if we wanted Chromatic Chloe now in this slot, we'd have to be, if we're going to allow that, we're going to have to send a message to this slot to say, oi, get Chromatic Chloe out of there because she's in here now. So we need this kind of slot awareness system, right, where if you take one from this slot and move it over here, then it is in fact moving over there. So we need to create like a movement, a movement structuring thing. Yeah, so I guess if you think about it, right, let's bring up Paint. So each one of these slots is responsible for its own slot. However, where's my fucking rectangle? I hate this thing. How do you draw a fucking rectangle? Is it this one? Shapes. Here we go. Okay, so let's say this is our slot here. But then we've got these other 4 slots, right? 3 slots. So usually our slot is only responsible for we're only responsible for ourselves, right? we are responsible for our own slot assignment, absolutely. So if we pick a robot, we want our robot to go into our slot. However, if the robot we pick from the list is already in one of these slots, well, under these circumstances, we need the ability to say, get out of there. Where are you? Get out of there. You're mine now. Right? And same for all the other slots. So what that means is each slot is now going to need a new function to remove the currently assigned worker by being called externally, right? So we basically send a message to this slot and we call that function and we say, you know, remove from slot, remove the slot, or whatever, right? And then when we remove the slot, then we can have the slot for ourselves. Sounds like high school. I didn't say that. Okay, so let's make that function remove the slot function. So let's see. On our worker slot now. That's my thinking noise. Where the fuck is it? I don't think it's open. Or is it this one? No, that's, isn't that the all slots? Yeah, that's the all slots. It's like All Saints. They were a fucking one-hit wonder, weren't they? What did they do? They did a song about fucking waterfalls or something, and then I think they had a couple of hits. I think sure they only had like one fucking album out or something. I used to hear it all the fucking time. And I never heard from him after that. Wait, what's this error? Oh, that was because I think we loaded something before it was ready to be loaded. Yeah, I don't think that's a real error. Okay, so we need to go load our slot logic, which is this one. Okay, so we need a public function I guess clear slot is a good... Okay, clear slot is a good function name for it. Okay, so now we can receive an instruction to clear the current slot. So at the end, we want the assigned worker, assigned task equals null, assigned worker equals null, and clear UI. But before we do that, we need to tell the worker you are now free. So we want to nullify the assigned workers dot slot UI assignment. I think that's it. I think that's all we need to do. I think that's everything. Okay, so then back in our other script where we were... It's a bit of a weird place to start, really, isn't it? But it's because it's the first... It's because I only have 4 robots and they're already in these 4 slots, right? So, like, it just happens to be the circumstance that I'm in. And so I guess I might as well cover that base first. since it was the first one we came across. Where the fuck am I? This one, right, here we go. Fetch workers, click assign. Right, here we go, click assign. So in the click assign slot, okay, so we can ascertain whether the worker is in an existing slot. So what we can do is we can run our logic. So run logic to assign to slot here. But then after that, we can do an if statement. If already assigned to existing slot, get them out. Right? Remove the slot. Okay, so this is where we can say if but this is the other thing, right? Because we're running on a different script, we need a similar public function, which, you know how we've got remove the slot. Now we need get the slot, right? We need like a get the slot where we can actually get that worker in there from an external calling reference. And we've got to pass the worker to that function so we know which worker we're assigning. Okay. Okay, so what we can do is we can say if worker slot UI is not null, then and what we're going to do is we're going to call our system UI. So let's get an are you sure thing. Are you sure? Have you really thought about the consequences of these actions? Okay, so we can do we'll call this swap worker slot. Are you sure? I sure want to remove this worker from their previous slot, previously assigned slot. There we go. I think that's fine. Are you sure you want to remove this worker from their previously assigned slot? And then if yes, then we want to say worker slot UI what did I call that function? Clear slot. There we go. So there we go, as simple as that. So if the worker is already assigned to an existing slot from somewhere else in the game, then ask the player, are you sure you want to take them off what they were doing and put them on this? The worker still needs to be available though. I'm not going to let people cancel existing tasks this way. Like, I will allow this if the robot... I will allow this just this one time. I will allow it if the task is ended. The other task is ended. But if the other task is still running, I'm still going to require the player to go and stop that task. Now, that's a bit of a misnomer in and of itself, because I would think 90% of the time, the reason the worker stopped, this is why it's smart, you see. This is why I think Zenless was smart about the way they did it. 90% of the time, the reason the worker stopped the task is because they ran out of battery. And because the worker batteries don't charge automatically, you're not going to log in the next day and suddenly have fully charged robots that can just resume their tasks. Because that would make it too easy. And it would remove the need to log in and, you know, maintain them as much. So I think that's why they set it up like that. So in the few circumstances like Discovery, like where we are now, where a robot still has battery and can still do another task, then yeah, I think it's fine to do it through this one-click mechanism. But in 90% of cases, the reason the worker would have stopped the task is probably because they run out of battery. So you're going to need to take them off the task and charge their batteries back up anyway. So it's like, you know. But if your worker has enough battery and, you know, rather than make you go all the way back to the task to take them off that task to then put them on the one you want to put them on, because sometimes you just need a few nuts and bolts, right? It's like, oh, I just need a bit of extra this, I just need a bit of extra that. Oh, let's see, the worker's got 10 minutes battery. Yeah, 10 minutes will do it. Let's just do it, right? So it's like you're not always playing the long game. Sometimes you just need a quick, you know. Okay, so now we need that external function which will cast a worker to the slot and assign said worker to slot. Ow! Okay, so what we can do is if we look at our auto slot function, we can use that as a template. It's going to work slightly differently. If I can find it. Right, so this is our button click add, so we can do this now as well. So each slot has or will have a child object called manual worker. It's going to be called that anyway, so actually what I could just do is from here I can just say transform find manual worker yeah. What am I doing? I'm actually fucking brain dead today. Transform. I was calling it get MW. That's the wrong type of transform as well. There we go. Get MW game object set active to true. Okay, so that will just enable this interface when you click add. So that opens it up, so that's good. And then okay, this click auto function is the function I'm going to copy, and if we go down to our remove the slot function, clear slot, we'll do a public void manually add. and then we want to receive an all worker of assigned worker. Okay, so what this is doing is it's going to look at all the worker batteries to determine which battery is the longest and select the best worker based on that. But for this, we are telling it through the UI externally, but we still want the logic for, okay, all this is doing is just setting, oh, there's a function called assign worker. Yeah, I couldn't remember how it did it. That's why I wanted this. So literally all we need to do is assign worker, assigned worker. And then there's a function that takes care of that for us. Okay, that's smart. I'm glad I did it like that. Okay, so all we need to do now then is call manually add from the other script and send the worker to it. And it should put that worker into the slot. So if we go back to our manual worker UI, so this part here is now this one's a little bit different. So you see how we did the other part? We did the other part by accessing the slot through the worker. But that's not this slot. So we still don't know which slot this slot is. But we can get it through our parent.
Since ads are about to run on Twitch, how about I tell you a joke? What kind of music do mummies like? Rap.
Please go away. Haven't you got some races to run or something? Right, okay. All task UI get slot, get component in parents, because we're running here, and so wherever we are, our parent will be our slot. So now we have our slot, and we can say get slot manually add worker. Then we check to see whether the worker's already assigned to a different slot, and if they are, we ask the player, do you want to remove them from this slot? And then we can go ahead and put them in. But we still don't have any validity checks on this, but we'll do that next. And what we also want to do is, because we're done with this control, we can say this.gameObject set active to false. What that will do is it will just close the interface because we're done. Okay. There is also something that it's very easy to miss when you're designing these things. That's something that you've got to consider. Another thing you've got to consider is we designed the UI Wait, what? What? I think maybe I forgot to save the other script, so it's confused. Yeah, okay, it's fine. I must have forgot to save the other script. Okay, I was going to say everything checked out. Okay, so that completely distracted me. What the fuck was I doing? Oh yeah, I was talking about this. So we designed a UI that covers all of the other controls underneath. So one thing to watch out for is, okay, what happens... Now, I already know the answer to this, but it's something worth considering when you're designing these things. What happens if the player is told... Let's say the player has, well, whatever, it doesn't matter how many workers. Let's say the player has 3 or 4 workers like I had, and all workers are unavailable because they're on other tasks or something like that. So you try to click assign, and it comes up and says, Bill is busy building, because his name's Bill. I'm sorry. You know, you can't use him. Then you pick Pete. Pete is busy petering out on whatever, right? So all my point is, if all of them are invalid choices, then you now don't have a condition to close the window, because the only time we close the window is when we assign a valid worker, right? When we do our validation checks here. So then you have to consider, okay, but what happens if the player doesn't have a valid selection available? That means they can't close that window. So your options are either manually add some way of closing it, or make sure there's some other parent way to get out. In my system, this is going to be my parent way of getting out. So you can always just click this and it will take you to the home page. Then next time you come back here, actually, that's true. Yeah, that is something worth considering. Okay, so here's how we fix that. That is very true, actually. What would happen, though, is this window would come up and that window would still be blocking the controls. So, for safety, what we want to do is we want to add an on enable in this, so that it happens every time it's opened. That is not what I typed. So we want to find our manual worker. Access its game object and make sure it's turned off. That way, in the situation that I just described, if the player opens a task select window to select the bot, here's the problem as well, right? If they did that, if I didn't do that, what would have happened is the player might have gone home. The player might have hired some more robots. Then the player comes back to assign one of those new robots to that slot. But because we didn't trigger the disable, we couldn't re-trigger the on enable to go and find the new robot. So the player would have found that they were still looking at the same list of old robots that they had before they hired the new robot, and still were unable to pick the new robot to assign to this task. So you got to watch out for stuff like that. All right, I think we're good. Let me check. Okay, I'm just going to close server farm for now. We'll run it. Open it. Okay, so now we can open our slot, which is nice. We can see our workers. So hopefully, if we pick Chromatic Chloe, what we should see is Chromatic Chloe gets ripped out of this slot, and she'll show now as over here. Are you sure you want to remove this worker from their previously assigned slot? Yes. Okay, it didn't work. It half worked, right? It half worked because Chloe came over here, but we only have one Chloe, and right now it's saying that we have two, and we have one that completed a task over here. But in reality, we only have one Chloe. So it didn't take the worker out of the slot despite us telling it to. We didn't get any errors, so there was like no null references or anything. Okay, let me just do some sanity checking. See if I can figure out what went wrong. Where's my chromatic Chloe? There she is. Yeah, so she knows she's in slot D. She knows she's completed. And she has a full battery. Everything looks good over here. She knows she was discovering cybersecurity data set. And she is a chromatic Chloe. So everything checks out. Okay, I have no idea why that didn't work. It probably did, but it's probably missing some shit. So when we receive the clear slot, first thing to do is make sure this is actually running properly and which slot it's running on. So clear slot run on, and we'll say which slot we are, this.name. Assigned worker, we nullify the slot UI reference. Assigned task is now null. Assigned worker is now null, and clear UI. What's weird is I swear that it might be doing it on this slot rather than. Oh, I think I know what went wrong. I think we reassigned the slot UI to Chloe before we run our logic to remove her from the slot she was on. So what we could do is temporarily cast that to a new variable and then use that copied variable instead. Or we could just do that part at the end, whichever. So let's check manual worker. Let's see, what are we doing? Yeah, okay, so what will be happening is when we call manually add the slot, okay, I know how to fix this, because this is outside of our control as well, right? We call the manually add slot, which will then change her UI slot to this one. So by the time we try and clear her out of the old slot, the slot UI that we are calling clear slot on is for the slot we just put her on, not the one she was on. So all we need to do is remember that slot. So it's an alt. So get slot is, let's make this clearer. Right, let's call it new slot and old slot. So we've got an all task slot UI of new slot. We want an all task slot UI of old slot. An old slot is worker dot UI slot UI, whatever. Okay, so now the new slot is the slot we want to apply Chloe to. And actually, see, we probably should do these checks first, because that's also another thing that's a bit weird, right? We kind of ask when it's like shoot first, ask questions later. We kind of put her on the new slot and then ask, are you sure you want to put her on a new slot? It's like we probably should be asking that before we actually put her on the new slot as well. But we want to do this either way. So we should do, yeah, that's the other thing. We should have done this the other way around from the start, but it's because okay, we should start by doing this. Check to see if she's on an existing slot. If she is, ask, are you sure you want to remove the worker? If not confirmed, okay, so what we can do is we can else return there. So if the player says, no, I don't want to remove Chloe from the slot she's on, and is like, oh shit, I picked the wrong Chloe, or oh shit, I didn't realize she was already on a different slot, well then it'll just return from this and it won't actually do anything. But if we get to here, then the player, either the player already agreed, or she's not already on another slot anyway, so then we can do our use slot logic. So actually now we don't need the old, we don't need to remember the old slot, because we call clear slot on worker slot UI after we check to see if worker slot UI is not null. Yeah, also that wouldn't have worked anyway where it was, because we call this, which would have filled our slot as slot UI. So here's what we were doing. We were sticking her on our slot. Then we were checking to see if she was on a slot, thinking it was the old slot, but that was actually the new slot we just assigned her on. Then we're saying, oh shit, get her off that slot. Yeah, so no wonder it didn't work. Okay, that's way better. And now we don't need to remember the old slot because we do things in the correct logical order. Okay, that's way better. So if already assigned to existing slot, get them out. But we also need some validation checks in here anyway. So the one condition that the player's not allowed to assign a worker on is if the worker is already completing another task, like actually actively working on another task. So this gets a little bit tricky as well, because now we have like a list of cases. So there's our enums. So what we need to do is we need to say if worker state is discovering, or, and then we'll just thingy these out, worker state gathering, crafting, or selling, then shout at the player, and then this becomes part of an else. Okay, way better. Okay, now we can shout at the player. So we want to do system UI notify wrong message notify. There we go. So the title can be worker is already busy. There we go. This worker is already busy on another task right now. So there we go. So check to see whether the worker's working on something else. If they are, say worker is busy. We could disable the game object after telling them that and then force them to click add again. And then that also solves our problem of, oh, there's no way of, we might end up with that. So that might be better actually. Okay, let's do that. That way we don't end up with a window that's stuck open. I think that'll be a better experience. Okay. Serve a farm, rows over cabbages with a lawnmower, pulls a carrot, kicks a corn. Kicks a corn. Oh, I like that. That's a great name. Kicks a corn. It sounds like you know what it sounds like? It sounds like a really good I don't know, it's like a platform, you know, like YouTube, Twitch. Kicks a corn. Uploaded a Kicks a corn, mate. Oh, that sounds cool. I like that. Kicks a corn. Maybe we should call this the Kicks a corn. No, it's obviously I wouldn't spell it as in K-I-C-K. It would be Kicks, K-I-X. A corn with a K. So it would be, look, let me type it. I swear to God, you'll agree with me when you say it. Look. Kicks a corn. Yeah, okay, I think I'm insane. Okay, right. Let's check this. So, this should work now. Add Chromatic Chloe. She's completed her tasks. Yeah, didn't that say idle before? Are you sure you want to remove this worker from that previously assigned slot? Yes. Ah! Wait, let me check. Right, clear slot, run on slot A. It's doing the wrong slot again. It should be in D. She was on D. Why is it doing it on A? Okay. That doesn't make any sense. Why did clear slot run on slot A? Let me run it again. She's not on A, she's on D. What the fuck is going on? Right, let's take a look at her. Where is she? Player data, workers, Chromatic Chloe. See? She's on slot D. I wasn't going insane. So we should call the function on slot D. What the fuck is happening? Right? Click assign, all worker. Also, rather than say worker, let's add some personality to this. This also helps with the debugging, right? Because I can see which thing is selected. Are you sure you want to remove chromatic cloy from their previously assigned slot? Okay, because maybe this isn't chromatic cloy that's being sent to click assign. Maybe the button listener fucked up or something. I genuinely don't know what the fuck is going on. Alright, let me try that and see what we get in our message boxes. I don't see the issue. Unless, like I said, that's also why I wanted to update the message in the message box. Because it might be that it might be looking at a different worker. It might be looking at SlackerBot. And if it's looking at SlackerBot, then obviously there's the code that calls that function is wrong and it's sending the wrong worker. So we need to fix it. That might be what's happening. Okay, so let's try and add chromatic cloy. No, it's looking at chromatic cloy. Are you sure you want to remove chromatic cloy from their previously assigned slot? Which is this one. Let me check. Wait. It doesn't get changed at some point, does it? Like, is she still saying slot D now? Okay, she says slot A now, so she's not supposed to be slot A yet. So what the fuck? Wait, what, did we reassign? Yeah, she shouldn't be slot A yet. Okay, so we figured out why it's not working. Her slot is getting changed prematurely. So let's debug it. So the way we want her slot to be changed is through the special function that we just created for that, right? Which is manually add. So I want to debug and see whether this is being called early. It shouldn't be, but something's going on. So this is manually assign worker function called, and then we'll say the assigned worker.name as well. Okay. Let's find out if it's coming through here. I don't think it is. What I should also check is when we call that function. Well, we don't call the function, right? Because this is a self-contained script. Yeah? Alright. Alright, give me a minute. I need to go do something. Oh, sorry about that. Ow. Oh, I got every part of my freaking eggs right now. Okay. So it's all related. You know when I always say, Grandad needs his itchy pills. That's what this all is. It's all related to that. Oh, bloody pain in the arse. And all that. Okay. I should probably try and eat something today though, because I haven't eaten fucking two days I've gone without eating. But I got some fruit juice yesterday, like some smoothies, and I've been drinking milk. But like, it's probably, I think this is the longest I've ever been without solid food in my life, I think. But it's just too painful. It's just too painful. It's not worth it. But I could be making things worse by doing that. It just, oh my god, it's like, I've never felt pain like it. It's so bad that I'm just, I don't know, I thought, well, maybe, you know, if I don't eat, then no pain. Which is true, but then I think that has its consequences as well. Yeah, it's tough. But yeah, hopefully in a few days I should be. I mean, I keep saying that though. I'm still aching. Like, I don't even know. What if it's not even gout? It's got to be gout, because like it's been moving around my body, and it does that when you, especially when you take the colchicine. Like, it was definitely in my shoulder. It's definitely like moved down here now, and I felt it moving on my foot the other day. Like, I'm 99% sure it's gout. I think it's just really bad as well, because it took me a while to realize that it was gout, because I just thought it was like aches from COVID. And I've never had it in my arms before, so like obviously I've never occurred to me it could be gout until it got really bad. And so if I'd have been quicker to realise what it was, I could have took the colchicine earlier and it probably wouldn't have gotten as bad as it has. But like, you don't expect shoulder pains, especially with like when you get something like COVID. You wouldn't think, even somebody who has been struggling with gout over the last few years, you don't associate it with gout, because it's just a weird place to get it. Because it normally goes to the foot, to the ends of the limbs. It goes to like the, well, it attacks the weakest joints. So here's another theory that I have. I think I pulled my shoulder when I was helping my mum before getting COVID, and I think it attacks the weakest joints. So I think maybe I'd made my shoulder the weakest joint because I injured it slightly, and that's why it went into my shoulder. I don't know how true that is, but that's what it feels like. It feels like it goes for the weakest joint. Yeah, it's fucking nutso. Right, anyway. Never a dull moment. Right. I'm completely fucking lost now. What the hell was I doing? Yeah, I was thinking, can I check the function that calls that? But there is no function that calls it. It's a button. It's a button listener. Well, it's not the wrong worker either. We know it's the correct worker. So chromatic cloy is now slot D. And at some point, let me keep that in the inspector so we can see when it happens. Oh, that was smart of me. Can I enable it? toggle active state. There we go. Okay. It's still slot D. Yeah, that's exactly when I thought it would happen. Okay, so we are calling manually assign worker early. What? So it sounds like this code will run alongside this, which is not supposed to. It's supposed to wait for that to finish. At least I thought it would. I thought it would wait for this to finish because we come through here and here, right? So I thought this code here wouldn't run. So is it actually happening from that line there? That's so weird. I'm so confused. Are we calling it from somewhere else? No, it's that. So I guess this must set up its own little invocation thing that runs isolated to this. But then it's weird, right? Because this code doesn't run until after the confirmation from that. What? This is so weird. Okay, I'm going to need Jippity's advice again. Okay. The logic assigning to slot runs before the player confirms the above. Confirmation request. Why and how can I get it to run after confirming? Notify code. Let's just give it both scripts, I think. Yeah, let's just give it both full scripts. The logic assigning to slot runs before the player confirms the above confirmation request. Why? And how can I get it to run after confirming? Okay, let's see. I see exactly what's happening here. The issue is that your slot assignment logic runs immediately after you call UI message confirm instead of waiting for the player's response. That's because confirm is asynchronous. It shows the message box and returns immediately. The callback you pass, confirmed, only runs later when the player clicks a button. But in your click assign method, you put the slot assignment. Okay, I know how to fix it then. I guess what we need to do is separate it out into a apply this function call, right? Like, you know, actually apply the change and then run that from both perspectives. Yeah. Move the assignment logic inside the confirmation callback. No, that won't work. See, okay, GPT's being dumb again. It's another dumb day for GPT. Because if you look at my code, right, you'll realize that I want... This is completely independent, right? This is completely independent, this message, on whether... It depends on whether the worker is in a slot. I know how to fix it. It's not what GPT's saying. The way to fix it is this is the click assign handle. Then we need to separate the actual thing out to say void apply change. Let's say, and we need the worker. And let's just say apply assign worker. Let's just call it assign worker. And then we need an AS worker, alliance worker, an AS worker. What's an AS worker? I don't know. Okay. So, yes, it's kind of right in that I need to run clear slot before assigning the worker, right? But I also need to do it here. Because it's going to do it twice now, though. Yeah, the problem now is it's going to do it twice. Okay, let's just do a bool. Slot empty equals true. Then here we'll say slot empty equals false. This is such a pain in the ass. And then here we can say only if the slot was empty, assign the worker, because the worker would have already been assigned here if the slot wasn't empty. And then it'll skip that. Bit of a clunky ass way of doing it, but that will do it. But GPT's solution isn't a solution, because GPT's solution is we only apply the worker if the worker's already in a different slot, but we want to apply the worker either way. Oh wait, maybe I didn't read it properly. If worker slot is null, else. Oh yeah, that's... Okay, yeah, that's true. I could just else it. Yeah, I guess I could just else it, actually. Yeah, that's true. Okay. Yeah, it's right, it's right. Okay, maybe it wasn't as dumb as I thought it was. Maybe that was a bit preemptive of me. It's because it was a dumb piece of shit yesterday and it was fucking giving me all kinds of stupid fucking responses. Okay, that should be correct now, I think. So we need a manual worker on slot B. They must be called manual worker. And we must line them up with their slots. Okay. Again.
Since ads are about to run on Twitch, how about I tell you a joke? How do lawyers say goodbye?
This broke.
See ya later.
Why did this break? Oh my god. Oh, maybe I opened it too soon. Maybe I opened it too soon. Yeah, I opened it too soon. It's fine. It didn't break. It did, but it's because the data wasn't there. Okay, that's fine. Okay, right. Chromatic Cloy, assign. Are you sure you want to remove Chromatic Cloy from this slot and put it here instead? Yes. Okay, it mostly worked. Yeah, I noticed this earlier as well. The only thing that isn't changing is the icon, and it's because the icon's a separate thing. So I just need to add to the all slot UI. Where the hell is it? There is it. From the clear slot function. Clear slot. It's not that one. It's all task slot UI. Clear slot. There we go. Okay. So now we don't need that. Now we don't need that. What we do need to do is, as we do all this, we also need to say the icon. Worker icon texture equals no worker or whatever it is, no worker text. There we go. And that will clear that out as well. And then yeah, we're looking good. So it moved it appeared to move, because it's all smoke and mirrors, but it appeared to move Chloe from one slot and put her into a different one. Put her into the one that we want. Right. I think I'm going to leave it there. Stream's dead. I don't think people really like watching me do these, so, but I'm not going to, you know, first of all, I'm ill, so I can't stream all day because I've got health issues. And secondly, like, I don't want to just waste my life playing gacha games all day, right? Like, I want to make stuff and do stuff. I don't mind doing that as well, but especially when it's like dry and it's dead, there's not a lot to do. Like, so like, even though I think I get more people, which it baffles me, because that's the thing, right? I feel like I don't offer anything unique as a gacha player, right? Because I'm not good at games or anything. I do love to complain about them. Because there's two reasons for that. Number one, I'm just a grumpy gamer, right? And number two, because I'm also trying to sort of like reverse engineer them and analyze them and pick them apart. And I am nitpicking away at them all the time, because that's how you figure out what's good and what's bad. And you know, when you want to make your own games, what do you want to use and what do you not want to use? But I realize that probably doesn't make me a very entertaining gacha gamer as a player, because first of all, people don't like to hear negative things about their favorite games, so you know it's going to turn a lot of people away. You know, and secondly, who wants to just listen to somebody moan all day, right? So that's the thing that baffles me, right? Like in that space, I don't think I offer anything particularly useful or unique or amazing. But not everybody can do this, right? Not everybody can like fucking create stuff like this in Unity. So this is the more, yeah, it's the more unique offerings that I can provide. But not many people watch it.
Well, you can eat them, but I got you anyway.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, well later on I will be. I won't be like this forever.
The only thing that could reach in us, fucking shop surplus. The only
Let me
thing
just
that could
mute
reach
this.
I didn't want.
Yeah, so like I was saying, that like, so I don't know, I feel like it's kind of ironic, because at least like I feel like I can provide more doing this kind of stuff than I can just playing freaking gacha games, because it's not like I'm a good gacha game player or anything, and I'm not a whale or anything, and you know, I don't know, I'm not full of all, you know, like a lot of these I feel like a lot of gacha content creators are very positive about the games that they play, right? It's like, what's that saying? Positive affirmation or whatever. I'm certainly not the positive affirmation type, because I don't know, I'm more of the critic, right? I'm sort of trying to figure out what's good, what's bad, what would I keep, what would I change, what annoys me and frustrates me as a player, and all that stuff. I just don't think it makes for particularly good entertainment. But I also get that this doesn't make particularly good entertainment either, because it's a slow process, and you know, it's probably quite boring to watch, to be honest. But maybe somebody can get something out of it, I don't know. But it's a little bit depressing, because it's like, you know, it feels like, you know, people give more of a shit when I'm just sat there playing brain dead gacha games all day, and people are more interested in that. And it feels like not being punished, but you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like I'm being punished for being creative, but you know what I mean? It feels like, you know, I do worse as a content creator when I do this stuff. But like, I wouldn't want to let my audience dictate what I do, because then imagine if you were just like, you know, you could end up doing God knows what. I mean, look at Nico Avocado and stuff like that. Like, it's a dangerous thing. Like, if you kind of like, if you worry too much about what's making me popular, what's getting me views, what's getting me clicks, blah blah blah. Luckily for me, I've always been so small that I've never really had to think about it, because like either way I don't make money off this. So it's like, which is maybe a good thing, because it means then I get to decide, well, okay, well, what do I actually want to put out there? And I don't even really think about that. It's more, this is what I'm doing, and I'm sat in front of the computer anyway. Like, I live my life on the computer, and sometimes I'm gaming, and sometimes I'm being creative. And it's like, well, I'm here anyway, I may as well just go live. And it's that simple, to be honest. It's not like I actually sit there and like, oh, I will play this amount of games and code this much, and like I'm not even thinking about it. I just wake up and I'm like, okay, are we working? Are we playing? What are we doing? And whatever I feel like doing. And that also depends on what's going on as well, right? Like if the live service games are dead right now, then that's an even bigger reason to be creative and make something, rather than just sit there running around in circles picking mints or whatever. So yeah, but it's just depressing because it's like, I don't know, it just feels like, you know, I do this stuff and everybody just disappears. But, you know, it is what it is, I guess. So yeah, I'll end it there. But yeah, it's just weird. Like the whole pirate software thing's crazy because it's like, I don't know. I mean, to be fair though, he doesn't really do that much like development type stuff. Like the couple of content creators I've seen who are successful is they either don't really do that much creative stuff, or I don't know. I don't think I've really seen anybody else who just does what I do and just goes live and makes stuff. That was supposed to, I mean, apparently that was supposed to be Pirate Software's whole thing. Was, oh, I'm making a game. And because I've took money off Patreon, I'll show me making the game. And it's like, yeah, that's what I do and nobody wants to watch it. Because like, and I get it, right? Because like I say, it's a long, tedious ass. Boring it would be boring. I would find it boring to watch something unedited like that. If it was edited though, and I guess that's the other thing, right? Who knows what AI can provide in the future, right? It's getting better and better and better. So having all this footage on YouTube might be like super fucking cool to have one day, because that's another thing I need to think about, because I do think I just don't have time to do it, right? I feel like if I could edit the best parts together of the creative process. So like I watched this, like, God knows how many hours it was, 20-hour documentary or whatever from Tim Schafer's, you know, studio, watching them, probably more than 20 hours, watching them, you know, make their games. And I'm like, I'm hooked. I'm watching every second. I'm loving it. But that's like kind of edited down, right? And so you don't see all the like boring downtime which exists in the real world. Because obviously no one wants to... Well, I don't know about nobody, but very few people would want to just sit and have that on 24/7. But maybe if AI in the future is good at sort of like, you know, if you can give it a YouTube link, and I don't see why not, you could give it a YouTube link and be like, okay, you know, scan the TTS or whatever it is, right, the captions, scan through the visions of the video, find all the best bits and edit it down to like, I don't know, the best 10 minutes, and then get it to do that for every single live stream or whatever across a project. And who knows, it could be absolutely fucking mind-blowingly entertaining or amazing to watch or useful or something. So maybe I'll be glad that I did this in the future. Right now it feels like, it kind of just feels like banging your head against a brick wall, or like, I don't know, screaming into the void, or just like, you know, what's the point? But I shouldn't feel like that, because like, and the point is because I enjoy making these things, right? And somebody might get something out of it. At the moment, that's still enough of a point for me to do it, I think. But it would be nice if it was like, if I could make it more useful or entertaining or interesting or something, you know what I mean? Because I get why it's so fucking difficult to take an interest in when it's like just such a long, tedious process, right? You'd need to find a way to edit it down. But who knows, maybe I could do that in the future. Because I'm never going to want to do it, right? Because I'm always going to just be making new games, right? I'm never going to sit there and say, oh, let's see. My two choices are, I can either make a new game, or I could go through 7,000 hours of my old VODs and try and edit down a video into 3 hours. That sounds like hell. That sounds just like, I'm never going to choose to do that. But who knows what AI can do in the future, right? You feed it like 7,000 hours of footage and say, okay, trim it down to the best 2 hours. I feel like that'll exist at some point. I feel like we're not that far off from something like that existing. And then who knows how useful or interesting that could be. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not, but you know, maybe. So I'll leave it there, and just carry on working offline, I think. So apologies if you are watching and you're like, oh shit, not again. I wish you didn't feel like that. I really wanted to see the rest of the process, you know. But I don't think there's like a 6,000-year-old wizard out there who has that much time to spare to watching me do this for like countless hours on end. But if you are, then apologies. But, you know, I think you can probably understand why at the moment I feel like 2 or 3 hours a day is probably more than enough if nobody's interested in watching it to begin with, you know. And I get it, but it is a bit depressing when I'm deep in the creative process, because it's like I'm deep in the creative process and all my viewers are gone. And yet, like, I feel like I'm actually doing something meaningful and, you know, rewarding and fulfilling and offering something a little bit different, but no one's interested. And again, I get it, right? I get it. It's not like, oh, everybody should be interested in me doing this stuff. No, it's boring as hell, but I do feel like it has more value than just, I don't know, like watching Tecton fucking... But that's the internet, right? Like, Tecton fucking spending thousands on a fucking gacha game and just doing polls. What's the value in that, really? It's not, it's trash content, right? But it's a spectacle, and that's what people like. People like the spectacle, and that's what I'm not offering. So I get it, like, and even I like watching Tecton do those polls. I'm not saying you're a fool if you like that kind of thing or anything like that. I'm just saying that that's not really me, right? It's not what I can offer. So yeah, it gets a bit depressing sometimes. All right, I'll leave it there. Bye.